In 2019, Kris changed my total trajectory when it came to how do I get money, right? So I'm still set somewhat in that traditional mindset, right? Going to the bank.
Which is not, I'm not saying it's bad.
No, I mean, I get most of my loans if I go traditional, not from the big banks, but primarily from the small municipal banks, local municipal banks, credit unions, the savings banks on Main Street. Those are the banks that are gonna lend in the community, right? Those are the banks that have the least requirements as far as traditional loans. But one of the things I started doing, well, I had been doing it already, but Kris showed me how to emphasize it, is whenever I walked in the room, I was not an entrepreneur, I was a real estate investor.
This mantra helps me to not only stay in business, but it helps me when I go look at real estate where everybody says, Kris, you gotta look at this house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's located over here and all this stuff. And I have to remember, y'all please repeat after me. I buy houses. I do not get sold houses. Big difference, right? Yeah. All right. Everybody wants you to look at a piece of house. I know you have experienced it. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, it's over here, it's got this, all this stuff. I don't give a hill of beans about the property. We don't care about houses anymore. We care about the circumstances of our seller. The circumstances of your seller. And when you get out of the house business, I did a video a while back, if you think about what we do, we're not even in the house business. I have actually graduated, I don't even go to houses anymore. I finally recognized that I'm not in the house business. We are in the solving problems for people business, all right? Now you gotta get in front of those people, and we're gonna go into some of that. I know everybody's looking for lead flow. Is it Sharice? Lead flow. I'm gonna share with you how we get our leads, and it does cost money. But I wanna kind of peel back the layers. As I was driving up here on 95, Dan, we're talking to each other. I can give you strategies and all that moving parts, and I can teach you no payment loans and sub 2 and all that stuff. But until I get into the help you to understand it, as Kim was saying, we just have to understand why we're doing this. If you don't know why you're doing this stuff, it's gonna be hard to deploy all these strategies, man. It's just, it's a hurdle. Say for instance, private money. Somebody asked me a minute ago, do I have a list, or are there certain private lenders out there that we can go talk to? I think it was Deji. And I was saying, do you have a list of if I wanted to be your private lender? Oh, if you want to be my, yeah, we have projects to come in. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So Deji would be somebody we would pay a high rate of return to, and we would secure his money by real estate. But private lending, y'all, we work with ordinary people to finance our real estate. Like, I don't go to the bank. We don't deal with hard money. I don't make monthly payments, okay? There's no disrespect to my lenders. It's just no reason to do this. There's no reason. Anybody ever done no payment loans at the table here? A no payment loan? Do we even, the concept? So these are just concepts, dude. They're just concepts out of thin air that we let them swirl around, and then we deploy them, and that's where it becomes real. But it has to start here. And I'm saying that because Dan and I, we're old geezers now doing real estate. A lot of this stuff, we look back, and even he tells me I have to reframe it in my head, and I'll tell him something, and he's reframing it in his mind. Even though we know this stuff, it's always good to be reminded from time to time. Always good to look at stuff. So we're gonna go over your handout. You got your handout here. And we are gonna get to private money. Kris is one of my lenders. The man just loaned me $100,000 a few weeks ago. I paid him back. I call him up, wire the money. There is no appraisal, no credit. Kris, do you care what my credit score is?
This is the handout, the one that looks like this, guys. I see you going through them all.
I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah, that's mine.
It looks like that. Kris's handout.
Subject to at the top. You can have that one. Kris, have you ever looked at my tax returns?
Do you need one?
Do you have an application in your book bag?
Yeah.
How about application? No. Have you ever done an appraisal? No. All right. So,
yeah, I got one. Yeah.
Kris is one of my lenders. He's at the bottom down here. I'm gonna. Y'all want to start with sub 2 or money? Which one y'all think is? I'll let y'all pick.
Sub 2 and 1.
You want to sub? All right, we'll do sub 2. All right. But we're gonna get to the money part though. Kris, y'all please don't let me miss this part because Kris is not a lender per se, right? He will loan money, but he's not out there looking for people to loan money to. I mean, this is not what these type of people do. All right, so we'll come back to that. Okay, so creative financing. Everybody in here is interested in building their real estate portfolio without going to the bank, correct?
Yes. Correct.
All right, so most of you kind of understand subject to. I don't want to spend all day on it, but I learned this strategy in 2007, all right? I didn't invent it. I just hired a bunch of rich white dudes to teach me this stuff, and I just happened to have one of the dudes lived in my market in Virginia Beach. And he owned several mobile homes. God rest his soul, Lonnie Scruggs, man. So he taught me some of this stuff, and now I get to teach it to y'all. So the purpose of buying houses subject to is because we don't have to have any type of bank qualifying. And I know a lot of us, I heard some of us bought properties traditionally. No, you bought yours cash. Oh damn, yeah, she definitely bought it cash. I can see that face. You know how that is. But I thought buying real estate was going to the lender, mortgage company, getting a realtor, down payment, credit score, appraisal, all this stuff. I thought that was how it was done, right? Until I started hanging around ultra wealthy people. And then I found out they're like, they don't use banks. They don't put the house in their name. They don't do down payments. They don't make they don't even make payments, you know? So when I learned that world out there, if it's interesting, is that interesting to anybody here today?
Yes.
I didn't believe that was the world that even could exist for me. Right? And these dudes are doing it all the time. You know, you see, I guess like athletes, that's for y'all, that wasn't for me. Then I paid, I got trained up, and I learned that we can all do this strategy as long as you get the right training. All right, so we got some fill in the blank. You get your pen out, make sure if you didn't bring a pen, they might have one at the front.
I put pens on the table.
Oh, you got it? Okay, thanks. So the first one, our first blank, selling a house simply means we have to understand the perspective before we can deploy this stuff. Selling a house simply means a person has signed a deed, D-E-E-D, to you. I mean, from them to you. So when you're buying a house, did y'all even know that selling a house is just signing a deed? Did y'all know that? I didn't. Selling a deed, and that's it. We'll get to Q&A at the end. Deed, all you're doing is signing a deed. Kareem, now you own the house. All the other stuff that goes with it, liens, mortgages, HOAs, interest rates, all the financing that goes along with me signing that deed is secondary. All right, so you have to understand first, selling a house has nothing to do with the mortgage. Y'all got me? All right, I need y'all to talk to me. Y'all ain't gonna be making me sleepy. Okay, next line, a subject to transaction means buying a house subject to the existing mortgage, or financing. The current owner is the next blank. The current owner has already qualified for the loan and placed a mortgage on his house. The current owner has already qualified for the loan and placed a mortgage on his house. You will be taking title and continuing to make his mortgage payments. All right, so all we're doing is we're acting as a ghost. We're coming in, stepping in. Somebody always asks invariably, this is not assumption. If you had to think in the traditional way, this is a non-qualifying assumption. So the loan stays in the seller's name, house comes in your name. But you must say the magic words. And what are the words that we cannot say to a subject to? Who knows? What words do we not say to a homeowner? Subject to. We never say subject to sellers. We don't bring them in our world. We don't do free seminars. When you're meeting with these sellers, do not try to explain how it works because it ain't none of their business. If they want to get educated, they can. But all we're doing is taking over their loan payments. All right, you must say the magic words. Next blank. You must have the magic words also written inside your contract. Just because you give somebody a purchase and sale agreement doesn't mean that you'll be able to take over their loan. Okay, I know this, I've been to court. If it ain't on writing, don't presume that the seller knows that you want to take over their payments. Okay? The reason we want to do this is because we We are allowing ourselves to build our empire. See, I wasn't able to depend on the banks. I don't mean some people in here might be bankable, but I wrote off all my stuff. I was writing off everything. So my taxes didn't look good. So buying sub 2 allowed me to just bring in more houses because you don't have to qualify for the loans. Y'all follow me? Myron Golden says you're tracking.
Is that something like assume?
No, ma'am.
It's not the same as assume. Okay.
If for all of my, we'll do Q&A at the end so we can record it.
Okay.
For all of my traditional thinking homies at the table.
Forget about it, huh? Okay, I'm gonna stop.
You know I love all you. There's a world, it looks identical to that world that you're getting involved with.
Okay.
It looks identical, but it worlds apart.
It's not the same. Okay.
Like when we show up, it's amazing. When we show up and you see our paperwork, has nothing to do with the traditional mortgage stuff, all right? So you gotta almost unlearn what you've been taught your entire life, okay?
Okay.
You gotta unlearn what you've taught your entire life to do this, man. And this shit is you're not gonna get it overnight, all right? Okay, why would a seller do this? Why? People are like, why would the seller sell me their house and leave the loan in their name? Gosh darn it, Well, I put 7 reasons here. I got about 14. A lot of times they don't have enough equity in their property because who has to pay the realtor when you sell the property? The seller. So you think the buyer's gonna come in and pay the realtor for you? No. Ain't gonna happen. Unless they're dealing with Kim or Angie where we can do some creative stuff, right? A lot of times these people that we're dealing with, you are their only solution. I am your manager, right? You're the only solution. You're gonna approach these people because they don't have any equity. Number 2, they might not have enough time. Believe it or not, some people just don't want realtors and buyers walking in and out of their house. That's one of my favorite negotiating strategies. You can always list your house and have realtors bring people come in and out, in and out. Use that one when you're negotiating. Miss Smith, you'll get more money. You know what, you'll get more money, just list it. Then you can have the buyers coming in and out, in and out, in and out to give you the most money. You know, always, like Dan says, I'm looking for reasons. I want you to convince me why I should do this deal. Like we don't want to buy the house now. When houses come in, I'm looking for reasons that I even want to do this deal. Why do I want to do this deal?
So Chris and I, real estate investors,
Scoot up, Dan.
look for every reason why not to buy the house. So when someone comes to me with a deal, I'm like, I got to convince myself to buy it. But the way I convince myself to buy it is I look at every single reason why I shouldn't. And if it still makes sense, then I'll consider it, right?
That's big.
But I look for every reason why I shouldn't buy it. Because the best deals I've ever made were the deals I said no to.
Yeah, he's right. And you don't have deal-itis out there, y'all.
Sometimes, and Chris will tell you, right, Chris, the second best deals we've ever made, we've made the most money with, is deals that we walked away from, and now the buyer comes back a month, 2, 3 months later, sometimes a year later. The seller, rather.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm like, now I know you really need me. Right? So, the word no is extremely advantageous.
All right, number 3, they have another mortgage. I'm trying to help y'all understand why people do this. Because the reason I didn't deploy sub 2, Kareem, for 3 years when I learned about it, because I just didn't think anybody was this stupid to do this. I'm like, why would you do this? I was thinking wrong. As opposed to, we talk about it all the time. I'm helping people. I'm helping you. Even with when we borrow money, we're providing a service. As Dan says, we're not going hat in hand asking people to loan us money. I'm giving you a service. I'm paying you a high rate of return. It's secured by real estate. We'll get to that. But when you approach these people, y'all, we want to make sure that we're offering them solutions, not buying a house. All right? I know all you guys want to make money. You want to do flip house and all that stuff. But when I learned to be a consultant first, solve out their problem first. First question when one of these, first question I need to solve, where you gonna go? Where you going? Where you gonna go? Because all this money and houses and closings and renovations and all this realtor, it all none of it goes anywhere until we find out where can you go when you move. I just bought a house Friday. We had to walk through it. First time I saw it, I walked through it. Dude was living there with no water, man. It was another nightmare. But we had to figure out Friday, the other day, where are you going? We were going to hold back $20,000 because he didn't have anywhere to go. So we have to find out where are these people going to go. Number 4, they already bought another house. They've got 2 mortgage payments. 5, house can be in bad condition. Number 6, seller has lost their job. And online, if you want this handout, this is a handout. You can get it in the video description, okay? They're relocating. They lost their job, can't pay the mortgage. But I have to say my favorite one is relocating sellers. And in my market, I'm in a high military market. We got 7 bases down there. And man, I got a call Friday. Another guy's going to Italy next month. He's like, man, how much can you give me? You could take over the payment. So we have to frame it up. You got to frame it up, Ms. Smith. The number 1 question we ask for our sellers is, how much money do you need after the loan is paid off? If they owe 100 and the house is worth 110, we all know that they ain't getting 10 grand listing it with a regular realtor, right? If they owe 100, house worth 110. You got realtor fees, you got closing costs, you got inspection repairs, all that stuff you get to layer on when you're negotiating with your seller. Lay on all the stuff that they are responsible for. And then when you present your offer, well, Ms. Smith, you can pay the realtor fees, pay closing costs, wait for the home inspector to come in, then you got to do those repairs. Or would you like to get all your equity today? So
Chris, do you give them a breakdown of what those expenses would be in the event that they went with a conventional realtor?
Absolutely.
Right. So you're educating.
Oh yeah, cost to sell. You have to become a master at costs to sell. Realtor fees. If you follow my content, we show you how to use flat fee realtors. That's where you're only paying 3%. So you must understand, this is a people business, y'all. Every time we buy a house, we're buying from what? A person. Every loan that I've ever originated came from a human. Every contractor, every inspector, every tenant, it's a people business. Dan says we're social workers. We're social workers.
We're problem solvers.
Problem solvers. So the equity part. So you can either go the regular route, Ms. Smith, bring some money to closing, right? Or you can go the creative route with us, and we'll give you all your equity today. That is a way to do it, but you have to frame it up so you're building value for your seller. We have to take us out of this thing. Myron Golden says we have to disconnect ourselves from the outcome. When you disconnect yourself from a juicy piece of cash flowing, well-positioned real estate that you could possibly buy right in front of you, when you disconnect whether you want to buy it. In fact, when people call me today, I tell them that I actually don't want to buy their house. This shit's crazy, man. It's the most insane thing that I'm noticing. The less I want to buy your house, the more they want to sell it to me. I do not know why it works like that. Ms. Smith, I don't need your house. I've got enough. I got more houses than, so.
We call that the takeaway.
I don't need it.
So when Chris walks in there, right, he's walking in and they have they in their mind, all right, I'm going to be able to close this deal with Chris today and I don't got to deal with the realtor, the inspections, get the buyer getting a mortgage, right? Now Chris walked in and he says, yeah, after I look, I really don't want this house. He just took away their dream for the day. Everybody wants what they can't have. Right? How many times have you guys walked into someplace and the salesman you feel like negotiating to where you want them to be, and then you say, you know what, I'll think about it, or he says, all right, no problem, but this won't be here tomorrow. All of a sudden, your interest perks up. It's just human nature. So Chris is working on that human nature with the takeaway.
Yeah, we want to use after you leave this, I'm knighting you. I'm knighting you all. After you leave out of here, I promise you are going to be you have superpowers. Where most of the people can't buy this house over here, you guys can. You can do the deal with these people. You have to use it for good. I'm knighting you to use these skills for good, y'all, because so many people come to us where someone has done a sub 2 and stopped making the payments, and it just gets nasty, and eventually the politicians are going to try to shut this stuff down, man, if we don't use our superpowers for good. So you buy one of these things and then you don't make the payment. And then you got grandma or whoever calling in, and then, so just please, guys, use these superpowers for good, okay? Everybody agree with that? All right, I'm knighting you. I knighted you. All right, why is subject to so powerful and why you should be doing it? Letter A, the current owner has already qualified for the loan. Some people, they already know this stuff. You got to teach the class, yeah. And placed a mortgage on his house, okay? So the owner, you've already qualified for the loan, Miss Smith. Why would I go out and get a new one? I mean, you already got the loan right here. I'd rather just pay you. See how I'm pushing it all on the seller. And we're not manipulating, we are slightly suggesting. This is called just being influential. We're slightly suggesting, that's all. We don't want to manipulate anybody. Letter B, he will be signing ownership of the property. My next blank, ownership of the property over to you, but he keeps the liability of the loan / mortgage. All right. So in real estate, we've got money here and we've got houses and money. I didn't even know this till 2010, but they actually don't go together. Right? I used to think that they were like locked in, but they aren't. It's the craziest thing in the world that it's so obvious when you see it, but then you have to be trained to look at it. It's like a specialist looking at an MRI. So real estate and the house, the money and the house can be sold separately. Just like the lender sells those notes to different lenders. Wells Fargo goes to Bank of America, goes to Regions. They sell them all the time. You too can sell your house and the loan stays in place. Okay? It just stays right there. It doesn't go anywhere. You can transfer the ownership of that deed. Letter C. The mortgage stays on the house in his name or her. Yeah, I think in her name. I rather deal with the ladies. The mortgage stays on the house in her name. So we have to make sure we're clear. Please be clear with this. Obviously, we have documents that are going to back it up. But don't have somebody show up to closing and you haven't verbally let them all know this stuff. When they show up to closing, they're signing everything, the disclosures, agreeing to all the terms which you initially explained to them in words. So we don't want somebody showing up to closing and then saying, well, you didn't tell me this, right? It's going to really be bad for you. All right, letter D, you will be taking title and continuing to make his monthly payments on his loan to his lender. Y'all got it? We keep making the payments. Next blank. The loan and the house do not go together. The loan and the house do not go together. They can be transferred at any time. We are all in these two worlds at all times. We're either looking for product for houses or we're looking for what? Money. We're either looking for houses or we're looking for money. That's all you guys are looking for. Now, at this stage in my life, I'm looking for more financing than real estate. Because we have the real estate wheel always bringing in deals all the time. So we got these two wheels. You're constantly, I might have $1 million out here. All my financing is used up, so I'm looking to wholesale. Once I get some capital back in, then I'm looking to buy. So you're always working on these two things all the time, constantly. New money, new houses. Okay? Constantly. So you have different motivated sellers, and no subject to deals are not going to be every deal. If somebody owes $100,000 and the house worth $250,000, why would they sell you subject? They have no reason to do it. They got plenty of equity. All right. Now, if you're willing to write a check for that equity, maybe there might be something to do. But generally speaking, subject to deals will not be all the time. I need y'all to understand that. People are like, well, how can I find subject to deals? They find you. Subject to deals will find you when you are a problem solver. All right, we run the ads. We have our website bringing in leads for us. The lead system, they read the website. It says we can buy your house whether you have equity or not. And you have to think about the mindset of the seller that's coming in. Everybody's been trained traditionally, just like everybody at this table. Unless somebody was creative finance trained from the birth. I've never met that person yet. Everybody's trained traditionally. Isn't that weird? Except the kids at my house. It's like they're wired backwards. So we're all traditionally thinking that realtor, all this stuff. And when you walk in, we don't do seminars. And God forbid, do not talk to your family and friends about this stuff. Can't do it. It's going to end up bad for you. I already see my man over here talking about he was talking to somebody. Because they're going to think you're unscrupulous and you're leaving loans in old ladies' names and you're stealing people's houses. I'm telling you from experience, my dad still to this day thinks this, Kris, I'm just taking houses from people. And now that you guys understand, we are building in tremendous value to the marketplace because no one can do this except you guys. By positioning yourself in front of these sellers. And we'll do that with ads. How's time, Dan? Oh, we're good. Okay, I got a few. Let's see, okay, so around that. When your leads come in, we qualify them over the phone. We qualify them over the phone. How do we do that? Just with questions. What is your current loan balance? And I know somebody at some of this table, if you're like me, was scared to death to ask somebody how much they owe on their house. I was scared to death. Now I don't care. But you got to get over the fact of asking these questions. If you're nervous, you probably will be for the first few times. But you're going to save yourself a world of time if you know what they owe before you go. Know what they owe before you go to the house. Yeah, that sounds cool. So make sure you have to know. People, the people that call us to sell their house, they want someone to come over so fast. Come take a look at that. Dan, come take. I'm like, no. I get emails every day. Kris got this, I got that. I'm like, just tell me the numbers. All I want to know is the numbers before I don't even care what the house looks like, honestly, until I know what the numbers are. Why would I go look at a house that he owes $500,000 and it's only worth $400,000? I mean, there's no reason for me to even put any thought power into that. We focus on sellers. If you got a 1, somebody that doesn't need to sell at all, a 10 where somebody's the foreclosure tomorrow, I need y'all talking the 7s through 10s and the 1s through 6s. Let your system screen them so you don't even get on the phone with them. 1s through 6s will waste your life away. It will destroy you. It will make you not like this business. It will make you quit because you're trying to convince a 3.5 to do something where they have no motivation to do it. I mean, why people, if someone says, I just want to see what you're going to offer me, Mr. Smith, we are not the people for you. I thank you for calling. You could shut it down so quick. But a lot of new investors try to craft these offers for people that aren't motivated, and they get destroyed. Dan, I'm sure you've seen a bunch of that.
I've myself made that mistake plenty of times in the beginning.
Trying to craft offers.
And every once in a while, I still have to catch myself.
You got to remind yourself.
From not making that same mistake.
We have to remind ourselves. We said it at the beginning of this class. I buy houses, I don't get sold houses. Remember that when you go in, I buy houses, man. I don't get sold houses. I mean, it's like all it is, it's the same transaction, different perspective. Same deed going on the table, same person selling. I'm buying this house. Like, you can't sell me. I'm a buyer. So just remember that when you're going in to talk to these people. And your attitude. Sellers can smell desperation. And I know you want to do a sub-2 deal yesterday. I already know, because we do them too. You cannot be desperate doing creative real estate. It's just not gonna work. Let me rewind. It didn't work for me. If you walk in and you must close this deal, your seller will be able to smell it on you. So when you're walking in the property, I remind myself every time I told y'all, I do not care whether I buy this house. And I earnestly don't care.
But Chris, would you not say that's for both sides of the table? So you can't come across as being desperate when you're selling or buying, because you'll lose at the end, right?
End up dying. Yeah, we'll get to selling too. So when you're negotiating with these sellers, when you're in the house with them, and if you go to my website, I've got a full audio on krishaskins.com, 11 audios that will walk you how to negotiate subject to deals. Because you haven't been, no one was born with this skill, I promise you. I've never yet anybody that was born with creative real estate skills. These are the skills you're talking about to pay the bills. You can buy as many houses as you can probably find doing it this way. There is no ceiling. There's no one telling you can't do it. No committee saying you can't take over these payments. And then when you're approaching to do your first one, it is going to feel illegal to you, like it did for me. So people that have bought a house in this room, you had a mortgage, or people, you've gotten mortgages before, right? It feels like you're going through a process, right? The lender sends the documents over, you gotta read this, title company reading all this stuff. You will have none of that. It's gonna feel like you're doing something wrong. I promise y'all, because I've been there. When I'm walking in, I'm like, where are the people at? I mean, who's here to help me do this? No one's here to help me. You have your docs that you have to submit. Very rarely are you gonna meet someone that's gonna even have subject to documents to give you. Attorneys don't give them out because they don't wanna be liable for the documents. They'll read over yours. You show up, you walk in there with your little, you go to closing, there's no one there to approve what you're doing or disprove. That's why it's such I believe us as humans, we're looking for somebody to kind of help us get along. It's all on you, nobody else. They sign the deed, the title company attorney says, here you go, Chris, here's all the docs. Ain't no lender to talk to. There's no lender, there's no loan documents, no mortgage. All right, so I'm just making sure you know that it's going to feel weird. You gotta push through it, y'all. We're reframing our minds, swirling it around. We've all been trained to do what I call the wrong way. Qualifying for loans, down payment, putting your credit, going in there, appraisal, all that stuff. From my point of view, y'all, that is the wrong way to do it. And the right way is to not guarantee debt, right? As opposed to everybody else signing for loans. Don't sign for loans, right? It's opposite. Over here, the lender makes you put the house in your name, right? Every time you get a loan, we say, don't put the house in your name. So it's like, everything's kind of, we have to relearn when we're doing creative finance. Yeah, it can take some time. It took me 3 years to deploy the strategies. And you ain't gonna go out tomorrow and close the deal tomorrow. You know, it's gonna take a little while for it to swirl around. Luckily for you, you don't have all the layers and layers and layers of years of being taught traditional real estate. Thank God. Right. You get to start now. Sure. I'm happy for you. All right, let's do Q&A on sub 2, and then we move on with Dan, man. Q&A on, anybody got Q&A? Q&A on subject 2 stuff. Marianne.
How do you get the money out if the property is under your children or your sisters? Could you do the same process?
If the property is owned by a family member with a mortgage?
Yes.
Exact same process.
Okay.
Same thing. In fact, that's where it started.
Okay.
Transferring it within the family. It's the same thing.
And how do you get out whatever, for example, if the property is worth 900,000.
900.
And then, or 800,000 or
800, whatever.
Yeah, how do you get the
access to the equity?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the question is, how do we get access to the equity when we buy subject to?
Mm-hmm.
So we got 2 ways, right? Maybe. First way is selling the property. That's one, right? 2 ways, it's always a way, right? So we got to remember there's always a way. Number 2, you can have the seller refinance before you take the deed. If you're cool with the seller, right? Y'all can pull the equity out and then deed me the house.
There's a reason why I'm asking. The reason why I'm asking is because I'm an act-share.
We'll get to that. I want to hear why. Other way, you can refinance with a local bank. Very rarely do I see that. Rarely. The third way is always my favorite, man. Private guys. I promise y'all, when you learn private money, you will not worry about borrowing money ever again in your life. It's just a phone call away. In fact, it's a text. Got a thing? So this is property. You got 800 in it. Let's say it's worth 800, but you owe 5. So you got a lender that will come in till you borrow 100. Let's just make it easy. 100. If he does go in second position, he can then foreclose on your house if you don't pay it, but he's got another 200,000 on top of that, right? So let me ask Chris, would that be, if it's worth 8, you got 3, would you do 1? Possibly. Yeah. You get asset if she doesn't pay. That's possible. Yeah, that's close. See, with me, private lender. I'm telling y'all, man, forget about thinking that these traditional lenders they just weren't going to finance my empire. And I'm not saying they're not going to do y'all. I had to stop saying they're not going to do. They didn't finance me. In fact, when I got foreclosed on all my other real estate in 2010, I couldn't get a loan, so it forced me into private money. But private lenders, man, they will loan money on that stuff.
So Chris changed in 2019, Chris changed my total trajectory when it came to how do I get money, right? So I'm still set somewhat in that traditional mindset, right? Going to the bank.
Which is not, I'm not saying it's bad.
No, I mean, I get most of my loans if I go traditional, not from the big banks, but primarily from the small municipal banks, local municipal banks, credit unions, the savings banks on Main Street. Those are the banks that are going to lend in the community, right? Those are the banks that have the least requirements as far as traditional loans. But one of the things I started doing, well, I had been doing it already, but Chris showed me how to emphasize it, is whenever I walked in the room, I was not an entrepreneur, I was a real estate investor. Every room I walk into, I don't care if it's business or social, whatever that is, I'm a real estate investor. I'm the person people come to solve their problems, right? But including that is, I used to take private money just from family, and I would always do what Chris did, make sure that they were protected so that in the event something happened to me, my estate would have to pay them first, all right?
There you go.
That's what brings down the defensive aspect from the lender side, right? The private money line. Because like Chris, if you go to Chris's website, he's giving you the mortgage docs, the note, everything that you need to protect Chris Birch, for instance, right? So Chris Birch's money is protected by the actual property. He's the first lien holder, right? So you need to do that with all your private lenders. It doesn't matter if they're family or friends or whatever. But after, Chris was saying to me, because I said to him, Chris, you remember what I said about hat in hand?
Hat in hand.
I said, man, I don't want to feel like I'm going with hat in hand. And he said, you're not. You're doing people a favor because you're going to get them more interest earned on their money than what they're going to get in the bank, and it's secured against the property. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, you're right, I'm doing them a favor. So that was my biggest obstacle. And I think, and the reason I'm saying it to you guys is because I suspect that's most people's biggest obstacle. It's not about pride. It's about a business transaction that is secured against property. Now, one thing I can tell you is that your word is your brand. And my father used to say all the time, he used to tell us ever since we were kids, is that we only have one face. So if you don't want to hide your one face, you make sure that everyone gets paid, even if you don't make money.
Yeah.
Right?
We to the money point.
So you have to make sure that everyone gets paid, even if you lose money.
If you lose money.
Because that one time you don't pay is an extreme ripple effect.
So does. You shrink. You shrink. We'll get to private money at the end. You good? All right.
Can I ask a follow-up, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, don't quit.
Because she mentioned the access to my understanding is most subject to deals, the reason why they're enticing, if anything, is because they don't have much equity. So that's not.
No, we got 7 things down here that, if you look at the middle of you got your flyer? You got your handout? So I put 7 reasons there, right? Why would they do it?
Right.
Only one of them is equity, or 2. We think of, okay, let's say this. So he's curious about the house not having equity.
Right.
Yes, that is one person. That's one door.
Right.
You got another. Say for instance, if the house is worth 200, seller owes 125. What's wrong with you writing them a check for 50? That's why we frame it up. They owe 125, house worth 200. What is the question that we ask them to back them into the subject to? How much do you need after the loan is paid off? What is their mind gonna say? If I owe 125, house worth 200, where's their mind going? I'm talking about where if they owe 125 but it's worth 200, where's their mind telling them?
75,000 equity.
75.
That's all they think is. That's the one thing on their mind. That's all they know, right? That's it. 75,000. That's when you back out. We start to negotiate our cost to sell. Miss Smith, I know you know it. If I were you, I want 75. Always agree. My wife can't stand it. You know, we have issues. I have my marital issues like everybody else. I always agree with the seller because they can't be wrong. Miss Smith, you know what? You're absolutely right. If I was you, I want $75,000 too. You should take that. You know, nice talking to you. But they're like, all right, cool. Damn, why get that? Well, don't forget realtor fees. Realtor fees. They got this. Boom, boom, boom. Don't forget home inspection. Well, I'm not gonna get the home inspected. I'm not gonna do that. If you want to sell your house, you will. I'm not gonna worry about paying buyers' closing costs. I ain't gonna do that. Well, if you want to sell your house, you know, so it's really like that's what we say. Well, Miss Smith, I'm willing to deal with that. Whether you sell it or I sell it, we got to deal with a realtor. Now, they don't know I'm getting 3%, right? They don't know that. They don't need to know all that stuff. But you back them down, and then you say, well, Smith, looks like you'll never get 30, 40 grand, whatever you say. Can I just write you? I would rather just write you a check for that equity. Take over the payments. I'm being a little facetious, but you got to master your faith. I have studied, dude, I've been around the masters, dude. It's from Texas to Florida to New York to DC to Jersey. Master negotiators, dude. Their face. Miss Smith, right? You gotta. If you're gonna sell your property, realtor fees, you got this. Why not just write you a check for the equity? I'll just take over the payments. They can either pass or play. That's it. Next to. Go ahead, Deji.
Yeah. So once you get the property.
Got the deed.
Once you get the deed and they moved out,
There you go.
the subsequent plan now is to sell or sell lease to, well, you don't like to say lease to own, but.
Rent to own? That's cool. You can.
That's the traditional exit, correct? Or
Traditional?
Or is that your number one go-to exit?
Absolutely. We want to turn them into cash flow. Well, the question was, after we buy it subject to, how do we exit? What is our exit strategy to get some money? Exit strategy is not always letting go of the asset. Exit strategy now, hopefully, will be holding on to the asset, but it just means how do we get paid? Yes, creative. So we buy it creative, put it in a trust. Like, why wouldn't you not put it in a trust when you don't have someone telling you can't do that? Then we sell it creatively, but we never buy how we sell. I don't want you buying sub 2 and then selling sub 2. I want you selling land contract for deed, seller financing, or lease option. Rent to own, basically.
Now, the rent to own is obviously a different side of things, so a different kind of lead generation and all those things. Are we talking about that today?
We can. I mean, I wanted to get into getting in first,
Okay.
and then I can come back to getting out. Because the hard part is, I got to get you in something first.
I got some things I want to get out.
We'll get to lease options at the end. Let me get them, we'll come back. Sharice.
The insurance